Hello and welcome to another episode of TCAP Recap. Tonight I am taking a recommendation from the Dumb Dudes, which is a username that I love. The Dumb Dudes recommended Lance Fine of the Flagler Beach, Florida Sting, and I thought that was a great idea because Lance is one of the human toilet predos. There's three of them that I remember for sure. The big ones, there might be another Predo or two who maybe talked about golden showers, but I actually got lucky and Perverted Justice gave me Yazan Asfour over here. He is another one of the human toilets, although he is the only heterosexual one. He showed up to meet a girl and wanted her to defecate on him. The other human toilet is actually Twink Toilet, the infamous Edward Hollingsworth, who showed up to meet the Decoy in a flesh-colored shirt and sporting a gigantic belly, and the Decoy locked his ass out right after inviting him inside. So we'll cover that at some point. But Lance came to meet a 14-year-old boy whose name was Derek. And the Decoy in this chat log is off the chain. Then they're off the rails, actually, because they make some pretty big mistakes. They call him Lance at one point, even though he gave his name as Scott in the chat. But at the same time, they just have some brilliant lines that really bring the character to life and make it feel really believable. And they actually get this dude to show up, even though he's sure that it's the cops at one point. He's like, I knew it. All this pressure. It was too much. But somehow the Decoy talked him back down, brought him into the fold, and then brought him home, where he was promptly interviewed by Chris Hansen. And probably one of the most notable things about Lance is that in order to prove that he was the person, he was the predator that the Decoy was talking to, Chris Hansen called his phone number right there in front of him, and his phone rang. So he gets busted big time, and then his famous line, "Why is there a cop here?" as he's getting arrested, just like moments before he gets arrested. But let's jump into this chat log because it's actually a wild, wild ride. Just up and down, from the human toilet stuff to Lance blowing the Decoy off, the Decoy flipping the fuck out and like exploding on Lance in anger multiple times. It's really a treat. While there is the standard Predo chatter, it's of a more rare variety because he talks about being defecated and urinated on and drinking the Decoy's piss. So it's a little more radical. And also, the Decoy, like I said, is unhinged, off the rails, off the chain, because it's awesome. But they make Derek very temperamental. as First and Grand, which is his username, tells Derek, "You've got a temper on you." So, we start off, like all the chats, with the Decoy establishing that they are 14 years old, and Lance does the standard Predo thing by knocking 3 years off his age, from 35 to 32, as if that makes any difference. Then he establishes that the Decoy is gay, asks him if he's into older guys, and then 15 minutes since the conversation started, and Lance asks, "So what kind of things do you like to do or have done to you?" So he's establishing the sexual nature of this interaction pretty early on. And there's also an iconic Decoy line right above it. "Heck yeah, dude." The Decoy will say this repeatedly throughout the rest of this chat in response to many of Lance's serious questions about, operational security, not getting caught, if the Decoy is a cop. And so he makes him promise to do certain things. But he quickly jumps into using pet names like Sup Hot Stuff, Sup Hottie, So he's sexualizing the decoy at this point and doing it verbally. He's complimenting him. He constantly showers him with like really nice compliments whenever the decoy sends him a photo of themselves or a video, or they talk to him on the phone. Just your standard grooming techniques that we see from a lot of these predos. They shower the decoy with attention and affection so that the decoy will feel indebted back to them and feel like they have to return at least some of that and keep talking to them. They're drawing them in, endearing themselves to the decoy, or so they think. But here's where things take a turn for the bizarre. They're talking about Lance's job. He's a waiter, and he got cut early because they were really slow. And the 14-year-old decoy makes a pretty insightful comment that while it's good for Lance, it's bad for the boss because the business makes less money. And Lance replies, "So?" followed by 24 periods, question mark. "Yeah, you're one of my boss." The decoy's confused. "Huh? You lost me." And First and Grand replies, "Well, I would think that after all the things we're planning, you are in control of me somewhat." It doesn't make that much grammatical sense. He screwed that one up, but he reveals that he's pretty horny, so I imagine he's typing this like with one hand. Blech. Sorry, but it's probably true. He confirms it later on. He finally introduces himself. The decoy does it first and gives their name as Derek, and Lance gives his name as Scott. So he's lying to the decoy about his name, saying he's Scott. Keep that in mind as we move forward, because it's something that the decoy promptly forgets, and they call him Lance in the chat, and when he comes to the meet, when they have no real way of knowing his name if they're a 14-year-old boy. This is where things take an even more dramatic turn into the surreal, because the decoy announces that he has to pee. And I do think that Perverted Justice says this just to see if the Predo will take the bait and ask them to drink it. Because look at this. First and Grand says, "Can I drink it?" And the decoy, being a decoy, says, "Sure, why not?" And that's enough to really push First and Grand over the edge. He straight up admits, "Sorry, had to stroke it a bit. You're hot. I'd so love to get beaten up by you and be your toilet." I don't want to kink shame anybody. What consenting adults want to do in their bedrooms is none of my business. But the fact that Lance would think that a 14-year-old boy with limited sexual experience would be down to do this kind of stuff blows my mind. That's what I find so surreal about it. This guy must have been hornier than a moose in heat, because he offers to bring alcohol, naturally. He again asks the decoy, "You'll beat me up?" And the decoy is starting to get into the idea. And Lance has a brief moment of clarity when the decoy asks if he's coming over. He says, "But this could be a trap, or we could get caught, etc. And I could go to jail." "Well, the thought did cross my mind, but damn, you're pretty." And the decoy comes back with a TCAP classic line for decoys. Derek asks the same question that Anthony Palumbo's decoy asks. He says, "You ain't my dad setting me up, are you?" Which is a ridiculous notion just on its face, because this is a sexually charged conversation. So this kid thinks that his dad might be saying, "I would like to get beaten up by you and be your toilet." No. It's such a bad excuse, or like a bad comeback when the predators get spooked. If the predators took 2 seconds to think about that response, they would realize, oh shit, this is a sting. Instead, this guy just ignores it and gets back to saying how he would like to be drinking and getting punched by the decoy. And here we see the decoy bringing back that iconic line. When Lance asks if the decoy would like to do him, The Decoy says, heck yeah, bro. First and Grand gets real gnarly and says, maybe you can punch me while you're fucking me. Yes, I want you to really beat, please. This guy, I guess it's a sadomasochism deal. He likes to get hurt, be hurt. Maybe he likes to be bound. Who knows? But here Lance gets honest and just admits that he's jacking off to the Decoy's picture. He comes back to the toilet stuff. Totally want to be your toilet. And he he says, okay, you swear to God you're not setting me up and you really want to do this? And the Decoy hits him with the heck yeah. He's cautious, this Lance. He's starting to realize, like, maybe this is too good to be true. He does mention that he wants to come right here. Yeah. So maybe that's what happened, and now he's, like, emerging from his fog of dick brain, and he's realizing that he could be getting in a lot of trouble. But nope. He's right back into it. Oh, geez. They're talking about some really graphic stuff. Stuff that I don't want to repeat. Lance specifies where he wants the Decoy to deposit stuff on him. First and Grand offers to be a teacher, but not the normal sex teacher like we see with other predos. He just wants to roleplay being the Decoy's teacher and have an illicit, like, student-teacher roleplay thing. The Decoy is starting to show some slip-ups, in my humble opinion at least. First off, they're really insistent that Lance comes over that night. And Lance takes advantage of this little cybersex chatting they're doing to ask things like, can I lick your asshole? Lick it clean? And other nasty stuff like that. The Decoy, again, goes along with it, says they'll try anything. Again, super easygoing when it comes to sexual stuff, and extremely stubborn when it comes to when Lance should come over. And the answer for the Decoy is as soon as possible. And Lance, it makes Lance antsy because he later claims that he was thinking they could develop a relationship over weeks, totally forgetting that he had already had this little cybersex chat up here. But the Decoy's, odd insistence on coming over immediately, but super open attitude towards rather radical sex practices, it just is not a realistic 14-year-old. Lance continues to express hesitation due to fear. The Decoy continues to crank up the heat on him, and they turn it into a strange pseudo-sexual argument where the Decoy is saying that Lance is making him so angry that he wants to beat him up even more. So this is an actual clever little bit of character acting almost on the Decoy's part. They're really able to play into this this angsty, angry teenager. But the Decoy overplays it, and Lance ends up telling him, you got to breathe. You've got a bad temper. Lance continues to repeat that he has more to lose. He's taking the bigger risk. He starts to figure out, like, maybe something isn't quite right. It's taken him long enough to figure it out, but here's where he gets a tongue lashing from Derek, who asks, what is your fucking deal? I gave you my phone number, my address, and you're acting like all sketch and playing me. And First and Grand says, save it, you're giving me a headache. I'm just an asshole like that. Whatever, dude. I guess I was right. And suddenly Derek is like, what? Right about what? First and Grand says, all this pressure. I thought it was a bit much. We've just been talking 2 days, man. I had no idea you wanted to do all this ASAP. Even though First and Grand is the one that initiated all of the dirty sex stuff early on in the conversation. So he wanted to do that ASAP and get his rocks off with cyber sex and then leave the Decoy, fuck it, who cares? So that's what the Decoy is giving him a tongue lashing for. But the horny level must continue to rise, and in Lance Fine, it rises quickly. He goes from, so December 10th, I'm not really in the mood, so if all you want is to agree, chat with someone else. The next day, he says, hey, sexy boy. And here we are. They're back into it again. Lance is claiming that he felt like ass yesterday, and that's why he was being such a dick. So he must have decided that Derek is real and not a cop, because he moves quickly from this point on. He does get guilted pretty hard by Derek when he asks, are you going to your mom's for Christmas? And Derek says, my mom's dead. And First and Grand goes, oh shit, sorry. So now he feels like he fucked up just because the decoy threw a little curveball at him. But here they go. This is the end of it. First and Grand almost randomly decides that he's going to go for it and drive the hour and a half to meet this guy, this kid named Derek. So let's take a look at the video. And so that is the end of the chat log. So that is the end of the chat log. It has a pretty standard yo-yo pattern it has a fairly standard yo-yo pattern where the predator goes from being horny and saying all this inappropriate shit to the next day being really cautious, asking if they're cops, then the next minute going back to being horny, and that time between them switching from thinking they're a cop to being horny enough to go for it lessens until they just go for it. And that's basically the end of what I wanted to talk about with regard to the chat log. Obviously, there's a lot more good material in there, but it can be kind of tough to just look at somebody looking at a static screen. But there is one last thing to point out, and that is the mysterious case of the forgetful Decoy, who, when trying to get a hold of Lance, actually calls him by his name. He says that Lance says he's at work. This is when the Decoy is waiting for him to come over after he gets off work. And the Decoy says, Lance, ... Lance replies, hey, what's up? Hey, dude, how you doing? And they go from there. So did Lance realize that the Decoy used his real name when there's absolutely no way the Decoy could have known his real name? Or did he just take it in stride because Lance is his name and he forgot that he didn't give this guy his real name? Mysteries, mysteries, mysteries. But that's the end of this section. So let's watch this guy embarrass himself on national television. All right, here we go. First off, I want to thank Beshnola for posting the video. It's actually a segment of a larger video, which itself is part 4 of the TCAP Florida series. And I guess I should thank YouTube for surprising me with this excellent shot of Lance Fine looking very not fine. He's looking very worried. And you may also know that I changed my cursor because I realized the old one was so small that you could barely see it. So hopefully this is a little bit more visible. But anyway, I'm going to try to keep it out of the frame as best I can. Let's jump right in.
Okay, First and Grand is coming for a boy.
In the meantime,
I wonder what Frag is up to these days. I wonder what he's doing, right now, or whenever you're watching this. And Dell, too, for that matter. I'm sure it's on the Temple of TCAP somewhere, so I'm going to have to do some investigating. But that's all I had to say. Let's go.
we're expecting another visitor. Not here at the house, but at the nearby beach. He's 32-year-old Lance Fine. Fine works as a waiter at the Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando. Online, Fine uses the screen name.
So he does have a pretty clever username that makes quite the statement when you take the first letter of each word. And to me, it shows a lot of confidence in who he is as a gay man and pride, because he's taking a slur that bigots have probably used against him and just putting it right up front. but doing it in a way with plausible deniability. So his screen name does show more finesse and wittiness than the average Preto, and I'd actually place him, as far as intelligence goes, probably at a 7 out of 10 on the Preto scale. He is smart enough to not incriminate himself to Chris Hansen, but he also has the advantage of seeing the camera crews there because they're kind of following him around. But let's get back to that. Enough of me yapping.
Speak to a decoy named Scott, who told him he's a 14-year-old boy. Early in the chat, Fine asks,
"Do you like older guys?"
Yeah, I like people that are nice.
The decoy reminds Fine they've talked before in a gay men's chat room. During this chat, Fine doesn't waste any time, vividly detailing his sexual fantasies.
"I'd so love to get beaten up by you and be your toilet."
Well, I can't do that over the internet.
Fine says he'll bring alcohol and describes graphically how he wants the teen to have sex with him. But he also suspects that...
That's some good editing right there by the TCAP producers. Putting that ghostly Lance up there, that was funny.
Scott might not be a real teen.
"But this could be a trap, and I could go to jail."
Nah.
Well, the thought did cross my mind, but damn, you're pretty.
Those voice actors, once again, knock it out of the park. As always, kudos to them for giving it their all. It's hard to imagine how they did it without breaking into laughter each time, but they probably separated and maybe said each word individually and took the best takes. No, I'm just kidding. They are voice actors. That's what they do. I really like their interpretation. Let's get back to it.
Fine gives Scott his cell phone number and asks him to call. The actor we hired makes the call.
I can meet you at the beach across the street.
Fine agrees to meet the teen at the beach, so we deploy our 19-year-old male actor on the boardwalk across the street from our undercover house. Soon, Fine shows up, parks down the beach, and starts walking towards the decoy.
Are you Lance? Hey, I'm Derek. It's Derek. Are you Lance? No? Okay.
Oh no. The decoy fucked up big time. He was calling him Lance again when Lance had given his name as Scott. So the decoy needed to call him Scott. But the decoy spaced out or something and kept calling him Lance. So Lance gets thrown off and the chase begins.
But Fine clearly suspects something and begins to head back towards his car.
He's walking back towards the other pier. He's not answering my call.
So I decide to head him off and try to speak with him.
What's going on?
Just out riding around.
Hey, is that you right there?
That is me.
So then you would be the one who had this chat online.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Can I lick your blame? Sure, if you want to lick it clean. And how old is the boy that you came to see today?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, God, this guy's getting hammered on the side of the road by Chris in broad daylight. Nobody's stopping to help him. Everybody's just driving by. Love him or hate him, this is one of those times where Chris Hansen proved that he was the top dog because he went from planning for a stationary interview on the dock or going over the weeds, and instead he now has to do one up here right by the side of the road, and it changes his entire questioning strategy. He's not even really asking questions. He's just reading the most damning part of the entire chat log. And this guy's looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You're totally blowing up my spot. Do you have any questions or what? Oh, you love to see it. I mean, this guy wanted to do some pretty radical fetish shit with the kid, pun intended. And now he has the gall to sit here and give Chris the evil eye. His other body language will be in submissive mode, as will his voice. And again, this guy being slightly smarter than the average Preto, he's realizing exactly what's going on, exactly what he said. He's remembering that he offered to lick the decoy's butthole clean. I mean, this guy, he's got some stuff that he did not want the public to know about, I'm sure. And here comes Chris Hansen reading the exact things that this guy wanted to avoid talking about the most. I still don't think he knows that he's going to be arrested because he does ask at the end why there's a cop there. He might be of the Jeff Sokol school of thought that as long as you don't do anything with the decoy, you can't be arrested. He thought that he could just have this extremely sexual chat log and show up, but then get stopped. And maybe Jeff Sokol got that idea from him, because this guy predates Jeff Sokol. But enough about Jeff Sokol. Let's get back to the video.
14, male Flagler.
Must have been somebody on my
Must have
computer.
been somebody on your computer, huh?
Whoa! That's not one I've heard in a bit. Somebody must have gotten on his computer and sent these lewd messages with Decoy. Chris Hansen's about to strike at the heart of that argument, so I'll let him have the honors.
So somebody was on your computer who made plans to meet right down here, and magically you showed up.
Well, I'm not going to say anything.
I want to lay on my back with a pillow and let you sit on my chest with your knees over my forearms and punch me repeatedly.
That's funny.
That's funny.
This fucking guy, man. So he's not going to say anything because he knows he's fucked. But he's going to laugh at it because I think he's decided to go with the whole, somebody got on my computer and did it. I would never write this stuff about shitting on some kid's face. Couldn't be me, sir. I just happened to be here at the same exact time that somebody who was on my computer was trying to ruin my life. Maybe he can go the conspiracy theory route and say that someone's out to get him, NBC's out to get him personally. Those never work, but he could try.
Yeah.
What's your screen name, Lance?
I have a few
You have
on
a
my
few.
account.
Is one of them First and Grand?
Yes, that
Okay.
is the primary one.
Okay.
I don't know what you want me to say here.
Well, I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
So he's offering up that, yeah, that's his primary screen name, and he doesn't know what Chris wants him to say here. So the way it looks to me is that Lance thinks that he's been busted in some sort of citizen journalist style operation where they just name and shame him and he gets to go on his merry way. Which, of course, he doesn't, because he ends up on the RSO, on which he is... But he doesn't, because he ended up on the RSO list, which he is on to this very day. He was actually busted in 2015 for wearing a werewolf Halloween mask to his job as a waiter at Perkins on Halloween night. Kids were at the restaurant, naturally. And if you're on the RSO, can't cover your face and be around kids. So they busted him on that, which is good. Just remind him, you follow the rules, everything will be fine. You break them, there'll be consequences. But I'm going to rewind this just a couple seconds so we can see Chris's full delivery.
What do you want me to say here?
Well, I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC. We're doing a story on adults who try to meet kids online for sex.
I've never done anything like that.
You've never done anything. You didn't do this here today.
No.
You didn't have this chat.
No, sir.
Then the potential
Okay, so he's taking a bold stance and saying that this is so much not his fault that it's laughable. Even the idea that he would be connected to this is laughable, which is why he keeps on laughing. But Chris Hansen, who is channeling the man in black out here, isn't laughing, and he still has a few tricks up his sleeves that will cut short Lance's chuckling in short order.
predator's phone begins to buzz. It's the decoy calling to verify that it's the same person he spoke with earlier.
Did you want to answer your phone?
Was it ringing?
Yeah.
I'll just turn it off until we're done talking.
You know who just called you?
Could have been my mother for all I know.
I can tell you exactly who it was. It was my crew who called you because they had the cell phone number that you gave the boy in the chat.
What's the police officer doing here?
That is a good question.
Get off the ground now!
Oh, that is some gold right there, man. Wow. So much to break down. His phone starts ringing. He thinks that it's just some random person interrupting their conversation. So he offers to turn it off because he doesn't want to be rude. Besides, it could be his mother for all he knows. He can talk to her later. But then Chris pulls the ace out of his back pocket, slaps it down on the table. No, sir, it was not your mother. It was my crew. It was that decoy that you wanted to poop on. He's calling you right now. And that basically puts Lance in the dirt right there. That's the end of it. He sees the cop in the background, asks what the cop is doing there, and as he's asking, these dudes are just sprinting at him full speed, screaming for him to get down. It actually looked kind of unsafe when they crossed the road. But what do I know? Anyway, let's keep going. This is a satisfying arrest.
You have the right to remain silent.
After he's read his rights, Fine decides not to speak without a lawyer present.
Okay.
Somebody for an attorney, please.
Okay.
So, smart guy to do that. That makes him one of the smarter predos in the predosphere. And he also handled his arrest pretty well. As soon as he saw that it was going to happen, he had his hands behind his back, he fell to the ground, or got to his knees. And I think the cops that were running at him were kind of hoping for more of a fight, but he just calmly, surrendered. And now they're going to search his car, and I believe they find pot. Now they're going to search his car, and I believe they find a little bit of pot.
Police find a bottle of Crown Royal and marijuana in his car. He's charged with 3 felonies.
That was some sad-ass grass. And you got the little pint of Crown Royal. This guy must have been real hard up for cash. But I'll just say my standard, it's bullshit that they charge for cannabis. I know that this is, 15 years ago, but still, it was bullshit back then, it's bullshit now. So legalize it and stop putting people in cages for it. And with that, I will step off my soapbox and we can finish this video up.
Including possession of a controlled substance and attempting a lewd act upon a minor.
Oh, see, now that does not look anything like his profile picture. So, again, he catfished the decoy. Chris Hansen thought he was getting Lance, but really Lance was getting Chris Hansen. Catfished the hell out of him. TCAP and that show Catfish, they could have teamed up to do some crazy shit together. It's not too late. Let's watch his walk of shame inside here.
Fine later pleaded not guilty. The Hard Rock Cafe told us Fine no longer works there.
Well, of course he no longer works there if you ask Hard Rock Cafe. They probably fired him the moment somebody heard, because that's terrible press. I don't know why Chris Hansen even had to bring him in. Like, he already mentioned them once. I guess he wanted to make sure that they fired him. But I've said it before, this isn't the kind of this isn't like a drug charge where if somebody gets sober, you can kind of write it off. This is something that justifiably sticks with these guys for the rest of their life and is hard to overlook. So, of course, Hard Rock Cafe would fire him. But alright, that is the end of Lance Fine, the cell phone predator, the could be my mom for all I know predator, whatever else you'd like to call him. Once again, thank you to the Dumb Dudes for the recommendation. I really appreciate everybody's wonderful comments. They mean the world to me. As always, I am extremely grateful for your time that you give me. It's an honor. So I'll keep putting them out as long as people keep watching and we can all keep tea-capping. Hope you have a nice rest of your day and night, and I will catch you on the flip side.